Time for another Soccer Down Here 1v1. And for this one, we go to Kansas City. NPSL is announcing Kansas City Soul coming on board in 2023 and hanging out with us, part of the fabric of the franchise. Head coach and GM Hugh Williams. Coach, thanks for hanging out with us for a 1v1.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, so let me go into the background of this whole thing. How far back of a thought process was it for you and for Tom Lyons to have an idea for a franchise and put it in the NPSL? How long a conversation are we talking here?
Oof. So we have been together with GSI Sports since 2001. And so I would say since 2001. So yeah, it's something that we've always wanted to do, is have our own franchise. We've been involved in the game at different levels, youth tournaments, youth camps, that kind of stuff. I moved on to the women's side of the game quite a bit, but really have talked about creating our own entity for quite a while now. When exactly that was, I couldn't tell you, but it's a long time ago.
Why the NPSL? I know there are a lot of leagues out there that that can have franchises and be homes for franchises. What attracted you to the NPSL?
Yeah, we talked to a couple of other leagues as well, and clearly the game is booming. The game is growing. There's so many different, very good options out there right now. But we just liked what we heard from everybody on NPSL side of things, like the local rivalry type of opportunity that we can build, playing a national league within our region, if you like, and also the standards, the expectations that clubs have to make this a worthwhile experience for all, for the players, for the club, for everything.
When it comes to growth of the game, and you mentioned it, so obviously you're reading my notes when it comes to the questions that I've got here. When it comes to the growth of the game in and of itself, you've been a part of the fabric there in Kansas City for a while, whether it's with the Current or FCKC on the NWSL side and all the conversations that you've had. For someone who's never seen the growth of the game in Kansas City the way that you have, how would you describe how the game has grown and evolved from a competition and a participation standpoint in the time that you've been there?
Night and day, I would say. I came in 1985 for 1 year, and whatever amount of years that is later, 5 kids later, absolutely love Kansas City. It is home. Proud to be Welsh, but Kansas City is home. But when we first came, there was not a lot of options. Indoor soccer, first of all, was the only professional leagues until the MISL at the time.
Kansas City Comets, I remember them well.
That's right, and who are still going very active right now, by the way, and quite a few of their players will be playing for us, so we're excited about that. So they're just, you could feel there was a growth, there was a love for this new sport in Kansas City. And so kind of what happened was that some of those early Kansas City Comets players stayed. And before that, there was the NASL team before my time, the Kansas City Spurs. Some of those players stayed and made Kansas City their home and started to build youth clubs. But that has grown from, if a Kansas City team went out of town, if we happened to go to St. Louis and win a game, that was an achievement. St. Louis at the time clearly was the hotbed of soccer in the 80s. And over that time, I think Kansas City has developed into a city that is now obviously got Sporting Kansas City. It's got the Current. It's a booming soccer city, that's for sure. Soccer Central is what we like to call it. But it's just not Kansas City, right? The whole the whole country's in. The World Cup's coming. That's going to boost it even further. So as far as the difference from 1985 to today, it's part of the fabric now. Seeing soccer on TV was very unusual. There was, you would remember probably, soccer made in Germany.
Obi
I
Charles.
think, yeah, that's kind of the only. I remember one of the World Cups, probably '86, and trying to find a World Cup game in and around Kansas City. Couldn't find one. And didn't help that we went to the Lake of the Ozarks that weekend, and Lake of the Ozarks would be a little further out of, you know, Kansas City being, soccer being the communist sport at the time, I guess. Something of that nature. So, couple of foreign guys asking a bar in the Ozarks if we can turn the World Cup soccer game on probably didn't sit well with a lot of the locals.
And they're like, what?
Yeah.
What?
What is that? What
Yeah.
is that sport? Yeah. And today, with the power and light that we have over here, and it seems to be that Kansas City is always in the forefront when it shows that, the fans celebrating for any soccer event.
So I know that, and I know that as, coach, GM, and, being right up there on the front lines of making sure that this goes off without a hitch in 2023. And this is a question that I like to ask all of the new franchises and who they have as their reps. I know that this is something that, being online in 2023, you've got a very, very short runway. I mean, this is like Tom Cruise at the end of Top Gun Maverick trying to get out in that F-18 Tomcat and get away from the foreign country and make sure that you can get back to the ship, because the season is coming up in short order. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, 2023. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's over there in May or June. Everything's fine. But you've got to hit the ground running probably at about 180 miles an hour to try to make sure that this gets off without a hitch there in the Heartland Conference. Everybody's got their to-do lists. And, for me, it could be on my phone. You pull out your stylus, you write down an idea, or you talk to text an idea, you put your phone away. It could be on like the little short dry erase board that you have attached to your fridge. 2:00 in the morning, you've got an idea, you're going down to get some water. Oh yeah, I'll write this down. You write it down, that way you don't forget about it. Could be on like a binder, something like this. As I show you a ring binder from high school, or it could be on one of those big dry erase boards, like those 6-foot by 8-foot dry erase boards they have in the conference room. Where is your to-do list? And what do you think the next thing is that you can check off of that to-do list, because the season's coming up in short order?
Well, my to-do list, just like yours, is everywhere. I live and die off those lists. I'm the type of guy that even if I've done something, I'll write it on my list just to get that feeling of checking it off. Okay, that feels good. So yeah, I literally live up off those lists, and we are in 100 miles an hour right now, trying to get ready. Got to get staff in place. We've got great partners with Park University, where our home games will be played. They have been so supportive with us. So their students are going to be helping us as well. Signing players right now, getting, before it was verbal commitments. Yeah, we're on board now, actually getting the paperwork sent in. So it's a good feeling. It's actually feeling like, okay, we're getting somewhere, we're getting closer, and starting to understand what the team dynamics are going to be, how close we will be to the type of team that we'll be able to play our game model. So next thing on the list really for us is building our website. We are, GSI is the name of our company. And so right now the website is just a page on our GSI. So on GSI website. So we need to have our own brand. That's for sure.
And you mentioned philosophy and approach. And I know that at the same time with this franchise that you want to be a good steward of the game, and you also want to be a good steward because of what you're doing there at Park University and having these partnerships and things like that. When it comes to philosophy and bringing in a specific kind of individual, whether it's on the field or off, to represent what you want to do there in Kansas City with the Soul, how would you break down what your philosophy is and what your approach is, both on the field and off, to make sure you're as successful as you can be?
Sure. The philosophy is to be a community team. We want Parkville, Missouri, and what we call the Northland of Kansas City to adopt this team. We want this to be the Parkville team. No disrespect to the league or in any manner to any other team, but a team like this can get lost in a big metro area. And another team in the Overland Park area from Kansas City, for example, would be a good addition, but I don't know how much attention it would get. Not enough attention, anyway. Being in a community like Parkville, I think that we can be adopted. We can be their team that the community can get behind, and we want to be part of that community as well. And the town itself is such a charming little village town, with the coffee shops, with the local pub and the pizza place. And so we're hoping to be, I don't know, a dinner and a show. Kids come to Parkville, enjoy the town, walk around the river, and then march to the stadium together from Main Street, Parkville.
Hugh Williams, who's going to be Kansas City Sol head coach and GM, hanging out with us for another couple of minutes for a Soccer Down Here 1v1, one of the new franchises in the NPSL. And you mentioned the Heartland. You mentioned where you're going to be in Parkville. And you got the Heartland Conference, and
Yes.
It's Arkansas, it's Joplin, it's it's OKC, it's Rain FK, and it's Tulsa Athletic. You're a part of a conference that's got some really established franchises that are in it that are parts of the fabrics of their communities. Because, I mean, Joplin Demise and everything that they've been able to do. I mean, obviously they're not
Sure.
Demise NPSL. What they've been able to do there in Joplin, OKC coming online a little bit ago, and Tulsa Athletic. I mean, Tulsa Athletic definitely is one of those names that you think of there in the Southwest and the Midwest when it comes to the NPSL. And I know that's what you're hoping to be as well. But you're going into a conference that has been known to be really, really competitive when it comes to on the field.
Yeah. Tough conference. Good players, good clubs, but good people too. That's one of the things that I have really enjoyed, is being able to ask the club members, hey, what advice do you have for us? How do we get the word out? And even when we were building the schedule out, it was so easy to work together to create a schedule that worked for everybody. So I'm excited for that. Will we be competitive on the field? You bet we'll try to be. We will hopefully be fantastic hosts here in Kansas City. But at the same time, when that whistle goes, we will be looking to get those 3 points as well.
And you mentioned expectations to a degree, but what are your expectations on the field in season one? I know that you want to be a part of that community in an off the field sense there at Park U and there in Parkville, but what about expectations on the pitch? I mean, I know that you, as someone who has, you've chased championships in the NWSL, whether it's with Current or FCKC, you know what it takes to try to chase after a championship. How do you temper your expectations, knowing what you've been a part of in the past, knowing that you're jumping into this new league, knowing that you're a part of this conference? How do you manage your expectations, knowing that I know you want to hit the ground running as hard as possible?
There's no tempering of expectations here. Okay. We are going for this thing. Who knows where we land, right? But it would go against every grain of my being to say that we would not building something to be as competitive as possible. The goal is to win the conference. The goal is to surprise some people and represent the Midwest at the national level. So let's go for it.
All right. So you mentioned Welsh, and this is my last question for you. And thanks for hanging out. Is there any truth to the rumor that you're going to bring in Michael Sheen to give a rousing speech for your first home match for the guys so they can go out there and run through the wall and not just run out onto the pitch?
What a speech, huh? Like the guy that sang the song, David Yuan, his name is. So my first language is Welsh as well. So he sang Yma o hyd, which is "We're still here," and I am a passionate Welshman, and that often comes out on the sideline.
No.
Often, but not always these days. So yeah, disappointing World Cup for the boys, but the fact that we were there first time since 1958 was a big deal for me and my family. And so yeah, he won't be here, but he will be here in spirit. Let's put it like that.
No doubt about it. Hugh, thanks for hanging out with us for a Soccer Down Here 1v1. Really looking forward to seeing how things are going to evolve for you there in the Heartland Conference. Kansas City Soul coming to the fore in Parkville, Missouri as a part of the NPSL in 2023. Thanks for hanging out with us for a Soccer Down Here 1v1. We'll be keeping an eye on.
Thank you very much.